everybody, and welcome back to the Starving Artist Development Podcast, where we talk to Detroit's cultural artists about the highs, the lows, and how they're using their creativity to move the city forward. Today, I have a guest that I came across a while ago. And when I say a while ago, I purchased a T-shirt from his media company and production company a long time ago, and it had an infamous quote by one of my dear friends, Mahogany Jones. And I love this shirt, and I wore it all the time, and then I lost the shirt. So this shirt was it was very important to me, actually, and I wore it a lot. And now I am just glad that I can put a name to a face as to the person that was responsible for designing this t-shirt. But I would like to welcome Ronald Lee Jr. Ronald Lee Jr. is the former director at the Union. He is the CEO of the Creative Cohort. He is also a music producer, and he has a media production company under What's the Irony. He is also the podcast co-host of Minding My Creative Business. I mean, he is pretty much threats. He is everything and more. But let's all welcome Mr. Ronald Lee Jr. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. What up, though? I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. No complaints this way.
Hey, listen. Again, it is finally nice to put a name to a face. I know we ran into each other at the Digital Empowerment Summit, and of course, the first thing I said, I was like, "Wow, he's really tall." But I realized, I was like, wait a second, what's the irony? I recognized that company. So of course I had to ask you, like, hey, are you the person behind What's the Irony? Finally I was able to put a name to a face, so I am grateful for that. But first things first, definitely want to thank you for creating the shirt. Love the shirt. I will be purchasing another one. Definitely gotta support my homegirl Mahogany Jones, an amazing person. We actually broke bread not too long ago too on the show, and she had such a compelling interview about her life as a lyricist and some of the things that she went through, especially being a female lyricist in this industry. And her words were very powerful, and I must say that her music has definitely healed a lot of Black women, including myself. So I also want to thank you for being responsible for producing one of her albums, Sugar Water. And I must say, you are very talented. So let's get into what it is that you do. Let's break bread. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I am a husband. I'm a father of two. I am a native Detroiter. And so, being from Detroit, you always got to run down because they be like, well, where you graduate and all that stuff. So I was born in the city, right? I was raised in the burbs, right? And then I moved back to the city. So I always put that out there. 'Cause when I tell them where I graduated from, you know how Detroiters get. Like, oh, you from the burbs? Like, no, listen, don't get it twisted. I was born in Hutzel Hospital, right? I was raised on Cherry Line, right? And then we did move to Oak Park and move to Southfield in my, formative years. But I've been back in the city for the last 20 years. Actually, I've been in this house for it'll be 21 years this spring. So yeah. So that's yeah, native Detroiter. I am a longtime music producer. Started doing music towards the end of high school, right? But I grew up in a musical family. Like my dad, he's a trumpeter. Him and his siblings, all are musicians. It's like 8 or 9 of them, and they all play music. They all play, music. My sister sings. So I just grew up in a musical household. I mean, from Detroit, right? I have a running joke that tells people that, yeah, if you're from Detroit, you can sing or something, right?
That is
So
true.
it, exactly, right? So yeah, long time music producer. I started my first record label um, at the end of my senior year of high school called Unbelievable Entertainment with one of my partners, Brian Nicholson. And yeah, we put out a project back then. It was a compilation project. That's where I met my wife as well because she rapped at the time, so I was her producer and whatever. So yeah, listen, I'm trying to make it concise, but just you asked me about myself, so that's kind of the role that I'm going. Yeah,
That
long
is
time music
totally
producer.
fine.
So as a result of me being a music producer for as long as I have, I made the pivot pre-pandemic to a creative business strategist. Pretty much, there was a young couple that I saw that reminded myself of my wife and myself, and it was like, hey, I want to help and support, right? So I just took them out to lunch, right, just to kind of get to know them. When I was done with that lunch, they walked away asking me how could they pay me, and I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Mm.
I was like, "No, like, listen, we learned more from you in this hour lunch than we have the past 4 or 5 years that we've been doing music, and we've had a manager, we've had these different people, so we want to be able to bring you on this to coach us and support us." So that was a light bulb went off, like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can monetize the
Mm-hmm.
information that I have," right? Because once again, I was just being me. I was just anybody that know Ron. I'm a natural giver, so I was just being me and just giving the information, seeing how I can support. But they walked away wanting to pay me, so I'm like, I'm not going to not let you do that. And then that was just a light bulb, like, hey, let me go into this coaching thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that, had clients, and I love doing it, but it was weighty because I had about 10 clients at work, at one point in time. So that one on one, it started weighing me down. So then I was like, okay, how can I scale what I'm doing? Because I don't want to get more clients, because me getting more clients, because I'm, once again, you said I'm the former director of a nonprofit, right? So I was still doing that. That was my 9 to 5, and then I'm coaching clients on the side. And it's not just my hour session that I'm with my clients, but it was like the hour session plus the pre, then plus the post, sessions, and it was a lot. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, cool. How can I still be able to empower, but not do the one on one, or at least if I'm doing one on one, it's a more premium service, and that's kind of when I transitioned into what I'm doing now. Me and my co-host have our podcast, the Mind of My Creative Business podcast, but we're actually making it a network. So the podcast is one element, but it's like no, we have other services and things that we're developing to continue to empower the people that we're called to serve, which is creatives.
And listen, I must say, when I came across what you two are cooking up in the kitchen, essentially, one is something that is needed, for a lot of creators, because I mean, we all know Detroit people, we know how to hustle, but sometimes we hustle backwards because we don't have structure, right? And everybody needs some type of structure. I know as a creative myself, I am a retired dance educator. I taught in the studio for what, however many years. I did DPS Dance Day for 15 or 16 years. I taught in the school system for about 4 years. Had my own media company, but also was still teaching on the side, doing privates and stuff while working a full-time job. So that burnout is very real, trying to
Yep.
balance your creative practice with your 9 to 5, right? And of course, this is now I'm in like my fourth company, because now I know, like, okay, this is the structure that I need in order to succeed. So structure is definitely really important. But again, Detroiters, we know how to hustle, we know how to make money, but it's important to have that structure in place, especially when you are a creative. One thing I can attest to also is that most creatives, we don't like dealing with the business side of being a creative. We would rather just create. So for you, I know we talk about structure, but what are some strategies that you can give creatives that are balancing their creativity but may also work a 9 to 5 also?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, right? It deals all with mindset, right? It's like you have to get out the mindset that all I want to do is create. And I get that as a creative, that's what you do best. You're comfortable there, right? You probably started creating because there was a level of therapy that was there. You know what I'm saying? It was therapeutic, right? All these things, and that's good, right? It feels good. But if you're trying to monetize it and make it a business, now if you like to hustle, right? Don't listen to nothing I'm saying. But if you're trying to make it a business, you have to get out of that mind that, okay, I just want to create. Yes, you just want to, but for you to create at the scale that you want to, you're going to have to do more than just create. And yes,
Yeah.
I get it. It's not desired and it's not comfortable. But one thing that I've learned is that there's no growth that takes place in comfortable, right? So if I'm comfortable, I'm not growing. So I have to put myself in a place of discomfort so that I can grow. And I have to do some of the things that I necessarily don't want to do to get the results that I want. Right. So it really starts there, that mindset. Okay, cool. Let me shift my mindset and say, okay, cool. Though it's not desired, I don't desire to do more than just this, but I understand that I have to in order to get to where I'm going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
And that's
agree.
that's really
Absolutely.
and that's where it starts, because I've learned that if I can't get you past that, nothing else I tell you to do is gonna make sense, right? I remember
Mhm.
I had one client where, listen, I gave him he had the dopest strategy I could come up with. Like, listen, do this, had all the strategy. He kept, okay, bet I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. We get on the call the next week, ain't do none of it. I'm like, okay, what's going on? So okay, bet, let's see whatever. So let's revisit it. We revisit it. Dope strategy. This. Okay, bet. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Never did it. What happened was, what I came to realize, oh, it was mindset. He could not get past his
Mm.
limiting beliefs to where, oh, let me do this. So he was his biggest barrier. That's what I see with creators a lot of times. We are our biggest barrier. It's not the things that we want to look outward and point at. We got to go inward and say, okay, how am I holding myself back?
And that's the
Because
artist development right there. That is literally
yep,
the artist development. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I've kind of had the same issue, whether it was with working with, my students, because what I've taught all ages from ages 0 to 100. Something that is really important is emphasizing, that mindset. And of course, if you don't believe, then you can't achieve. I can only pour into you so much until I'm blue in the face. But if you don't believe that you have the tools to be successful, then I can't necessarily push you to that edge where you need to go in order to fulfill whatever creative endeavor it is that you are working on. Whether it's, doing better in school and balancing your education with dance practice, because that's a juggling act too. But even working with adults and sometimes instilling those beliefs in adults, something that I thought about not too long ago when I was in this process of just really trying to figure out, like, okay, what do I really want to do now as a creative, now that I've decided to take a step back from teaching dance. And something that I did come across was my identity with myself and how I saw myself just as an individual. And of course, we all struggle with an imposter syndrome, but I didn't realize how deep it was until I started, doing some soul searching of my own and realizing that sometimes that imposter syndrome is tied to trauma, right? And until we can lock down that trauma and really secure what it is that is holding us back, then we cannot move forward. So as a creative, we can set the blueprint for, other creatives, but ultimately, in order for them to follow that blueprint, they have to be able to just get out of their own way.
that's it. No,
So
listen,
I
that's the
definitely
biggest
agree.
thing is, I say get your butt out the way, right? Because it's always a but, but, but. No,
Mhm.
get your butt out the way. Like, no, like let's drill down. And sometimes we got to pull those layers back, right? It's to see what it really is. Because once again, we can mask it, we can hide it, but at the end of the day, it is a lot of times it's tied to some kind of trauma. And sometimes it might even not even be a trauma. It's just once again a limiting belief where, like, for me, for example, like, and I'm glad that me and my father, we so my dad is, once again, he's a trumpet player, right? Now, when
Mm,
he was in his early 20s, late teens, he pursued a music career, right? He was over in Germany doing some things. Now, he had a unfavorable experience while he was in Germany, right?
mm,
So where he was over there, they was gigging, but then they lost the gig because I think it was one of the people that was on there that was managing them didn't handle it properly. So they ended
mm,
up losing their gigs and not knowing the culture of Germany compared to the culture of America, right? They going over there trying to
mm,
do whatever. And this is in the 70s. Long story short, he was over in Germany for about 6 months and they wasn't gigging like he was used to
mm.
gigging. So he had to go get him a job, right? And had to figure out how to get back to the States.
Yep.
So not knowing, I'm like, dang, my dad is a dope trumpeter. Why he never, like, he would do stuff on the side, but having that conversation with him, like, oh, he did pursue it when he was younger. It didn't work out. And he knew that, okay, I have a family, I got responsibility, so I got to take care of my responsibility. So I got to put this on the back burner. Not saying that
Mm,
he didn't have the talent or the skill, but something else took precedence. So I'm
mm,
like, oh, okay, I get it, and I understand that. So a lot of times we have those situations, and that it don't necessarily well, no, it does, it hinders us or prevents us because, okay, I'm looking at it through this lens opposed to saying, well, I tried once, it didn't work out, but let me try it again. Or
Yeah.
I was doing it this way, but let me pivot and let me make adjustments. Sometimes it's just like, nope, I'm gonna do something else and keep it moving.
And it can also be cultural too, especially depending on that time and era. Because what my dad, it's funny that you said that your dad is a musician. So my dad, he went to like Northern High School and he sung, and he was actually a traveling singer, but he also had a contract to play overseas and to play with the Detroit Pistons, and he gave up that dream ultimately because he had a family with his first marriage, and we talked about that a lot too, and I could see how passionate he was about singing. And even now, there was some things that he would tell me, like when I was trying to pursue dance and stuff, and it was always, you need to get a stable job, and dance doesn't pay the bills, woo, whatever. How about you come over to the police academy so that way you can have a pension and everything. But really, it came from upbringing and environment and just his own, because I wouldn't even say limited beliefs. It was just something that he endured. And unfortunately, it kind of skewed him into a different direction where, because he had to provide for his family, because he saw how hard it was to be a musician and to, keep that practice going. Unfortunately, to see that, okay, when I have a child who is also creative and I don't want her to have to face some of the struggles or realities that I've had to face. So let me try and convince her to do something else so that way she can have that money and stuff. But now, when we talk about stuff like that, he's more open to the fact that, okay, so you can get paid to be a musician, you can get paid to be a singer, and sometimes he'll do like the casino stuff where he sings in a group and he loves it, he enjoys it. And then he was also one that taught me about media too. Like I kind of picked up on how to do media stuff because of him. And then I just I kept going, right? But it's so interesting that a lot of Detroiters, they kind of have the same upbringing. They're surrounded by music. So they were heavily influenced, by different artists here in the city. And we all know that Detroit is the mecca of music. I mean, hands down. We have driven the culture of music and everything else to where it is now. And with it being a predominantly black city and a beautiful predominantly black city, there are so many things that a lot of the cultural artists here have done in order to pave the way, for other aspiring artists. So one thing I can say, I know the services that you're offering is going to help the next generation, right? Because now we're living in a generation where people are just struggling just to have social engagement, right? Because we're so busy doing everything digitally and stuff. But when we were growing up, we interacted with each other. We built community. We broke bread with each other. We went outside. We went to the recreational centers. We did all of that. So now to teach, the next generation just about strategy and setting those things up. I know we have our work cut out for us for sure, but at the end of the day, I know you are continuing to move the culture forward, not only as a cultural artist, because you are multi hyphenated, but you are also propelling the next generation into greatness. So this is, a great thing. This is a great thing. Now, I wanted to ask you about something that you said. You said structure doesn't kill creativity, it protects it. Let's go into that a little bit more. Can you elaborate on that for me?
No, definitely. So once again, going from your typical average creative or stereotypical creative, right? Like they don't like that structure piece. They want to be free as a bird. Don't box me in.
Mhm.
Don't cage me in. Like let me just do me, right? Now the thing though, in just doing you, what happens is we tend to take on more things that we should and some things that we shouldn't, right? So when I say that structure doesn't kill it, but it actually preserves it, it's like, okay, when you put a barrier around what it is that you're doing, when you put some structure and some systems in place, now the certain other things that are on your mind that you're thinking about that will be a distractions don't got to be distractions now, because you've put some systems, you've put some structure in place to block and barricade and prevent that from coming in. So it's like, okay, cool, I don't got to worry about that because I have this system in place, right? So now that allows for me to focus my attention over here, right? But
Yeah.
when you look at systems and structure as a bad thing, then yeah, it's like, get away from me. But it's like, no, I'm trying to free you up so that you can create, so that you can focus on the part that you love doing, right? It's a book called The E-Myth Revisited, and that's kind of one of the things that he talked about, is like being able to automate and delegate some things. So I even took it about a step
Mhm.
further, where it's like, okay, we got to learn to evaluate. So as a creative, evaluate and see what it is that you desire to do. What do you desire to do? What do you want to do? So okay, I've made that evaluation, right? So after I evaluate, now I'm going to see, what do I now need to eliminate. So based off what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to go with my creativity, okay, I need to eliminate this task, this task, this task, this task. Get rid of it. It's gone. Now, after I've eliminated some things, now there's some other things that still need to be done. So I need to see, okay, who can I delegate that to? Do I have anybody on my
Mhm.
team? Do I have anybody in my life that I can delegate that to where it can get done, but I ain't got to be the one doing it? So now we've
Mhm.
already eliminated, took stuff off the plate, right? Took stuff off your shoulders, right? From eliminating and delegating. Now it might be a couple more things to where, okay, we can automate. Like you today, we had our call today. You sent out a 30-minute reminder. You didn't send out that reminder. You automated that, right? You had a system in place to let my guests know. So that's something that you're not doing manually. That would normally take time and energy for you to do. It is something as simple as an email, but listen, I don't know about you. For me, emails is difficult for me to send. And it's not because it's hard, it's tedious. I don't like the
Yeah.
tedious stuff. I'm a doer, so I like getting stuff done. So anything that's stopping me from doing what I'm trying to do, you know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. So if I got to stop to do it, even though it's small, I got to stop my energy, my momentum. Then I got to build my momentum back up again. And that takes away energy. So when you have structure in place, evaluate, I'm eliminating it, I'm delegating it, or I'm automating it. Now I can elevate. And in that elevation, I'm freer. The stuff is off my shoulder. And now I can be that dope creative that I was called and developed to be.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. Listen, automating and setting up systems has changed the game for me. I am still automating and setting up systems for my business and for my podcast. One, to make it as convenient for my guests and when I work with clients. And two, it helps um, alleviate some of that or relieve some of that stress, especially because what, I'm a wife, I'm a mom of a 4-year old who is very busy, balancing starting an entirely new practice. I am trying to balance my health and everything else and really make time for, family and just make time for me. Having those things planned out in advance, it helps my guests and it helps my clients, but it also helps me, get other stuff done too. So, oh well, I've already automated that. So I'm good. I don't have to sit here and type up an email and then send it out or wait. Even scheduling out content, just batch recording and having that already scheduled out, unless if there are any like technical issues, that helps too. But that planning and that process, it relieves the stress of being a creative, right? So it's definitely important to have those systems in place. Now, let's talk about burnout. Because burnout is real. And I know that we as creatives, we have all felt burnout. Um, when you were in the process of just figuring out what you wanted to do and who you wanted to be, what were some mistakes you made along the way, or some of your struggles that you had to endure, but you bounced back?
Doing everything. Right. So we have an episode coming out. It hasn't released yet, but we talk about automations. But I was doing too much. I was literally doing everything. I'm sending I'm sending the invoices. I'm sending the emails. I'm scheduling appointments. I'm hopping on strategy calls, sales calls. I'm just doing all the things. Right. So in doing all the things and not knowing how to automate, delegate, and eliminate, yeah, that was adding more stress. And listen, I tell people, a stressed version of me is not the best version of me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm more irritable, I'm more short. I'm already very blunt and direct person, and I can kind of come across as harsh or brash, right? That's just in general. Now adding on that stress, it's not a good look. So
Mm.
I had to go through that to learn that. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, we try to learn lessons from not experiencing them, but sometimes we got to go through it. So I had to go through it, right? I remember I connected with a young lady that does operations, and she was like, okay, cool, we about to go through your whole step, right? When it comes to you, when you onboard a client to when you service a client, it's the whole nine. We're gonna go through this, and everything that you do, we're gonna write it in red. We had like a big sticky note.
Mm.
Everything that you do, we're gonna write it in red. So we was writing it out, right? By the time we got done, the lady said, "You bleeding, sir," because it was like
Mm.
everything on there was red. I was doing too much. So I had to. So in that moment, I learned, okay, cool. If I'm going to continue, it's some things that I have to stop doing. Once again, going back to that was my evaluation. I got to evaluate it, right? And look, okay, what can be eliminated? Okay, this can be, that can be, yeah, no, that can't be eliminated. That still needs to happen. But then going through again and saying, okay, cool. Okay, I can delegate this, right? Give me a little virtual assistant. They can do this. I can automate this, right? There's an app for that. Remember back in the day when Apple first came with the
Yes,
iPhone,
there's
there was
enough for
an app
that.
for that, right? It's an app for most of these things. So it was like, okay, cool. Let me start using these tools and things. And even that, somebody that's a doer that likes getting things done as a creative. Sometimes we don't like using the tools, right? But I'd say a lot of that stuff is a one-time thing. It's a one-time setup, right? You don't got to keep setting it up over and over again. You just got to set it up initially. So sometimes you got to go slow or to pause so that you can then speed up. But if you still trying to go and you keep adding on all this weight to your back, no, that don't work. So I had to learn that. I learned that the hard way. I learned that from actually being in it and doing it. And that's why I encourage people too. It's like I think people try to bring people in the fold and in the mix too quick. And
Mm.
in doing that, you don't really know what's required. It's like because you want to create so much, you like, I need a manager. Ma'am, sir, you don't have nothing to manage right now. Right?
Mm.
It's like build and do what you got to do. You might got to manage yourself. You might got to be your own booking agent for a period of time so that first of all, you know what to do and you know what's expected. So then when you do hire somebody, you know how to hold them accountable. But a
Yeah.
lot of times you not necessarily holding them accountable because you don't know what to
You know
do.
what to do.
They thinking
Yep.
they doing it. That's how people get burnt by their managers and all that stuff. They be like, well, they was spending money and all that stuff because you just thought that I could give it to them and they good. No, that's not how that works. You need to become a CEO. So yes, a CEO don't do everything. They may not even know how to do everything, but they know how to take a bird's eye view and see what's going on and make sure that I'm holding the right people accountable and that I'm even hiring the right people. Stop hiring your cousin Pookie just because they love you, they love what you're doing. No, do they know how to be a CPA? Do they know how to,
Mm-mm.
handle the books? Do they know how to do these tasks? Now, as I say that, I will admit there are some skills that you can learn, right? So I do hire character over skills. However, though, we need to then put something in place to where you can train and get these skills so now the character and the skills can match,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not big on hiring skills over character because you can be
Mm-hmm.
skillful at it, and if your character trash, we still gonna end up in the same place because you did something unethical, and I got to pay for that because I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully I answered your question. I'm sorry. You see, I get
Yeah.
passionate about this.
Yes, you did. No, you definitely you dug deep and you hit a chord about not only just being big on people's character, because I also believe that people's character, it plays a part into their professionalism too. And I know my pet peeve for me, I am big on communication. If you want to collaborate on anything with me and you're so excited and I hit you with everything that you need to know about what it is that I do and my expectations and everything, and I have it all mapped out for you, and you go ghost. You can easily say, you know what, this may actually be too much for me. I'm going to politely decline, right? Because character also, aligns with professionalism as well. Sometimes, I have situations where I reach out to podcast hosts, I mean, well, podcast guest interviews, and some people may be interested in, some people, it might not fit in their schedule. And me, I'm a very understanding person because I am taking your time and I want to make sure that your time is being used the correct way as well, right? So that way you can position yourself as an expert on the show, because really I'm just about building community and breaking bread with everybody here in the city. But also too, your character and your professionalism is reflection. And we all know that Detroit is very small. Everybody know everybody. So if I run into somebody and they ask me about you and you want me to vouch for you, I mean, I can easily pretend like I don't know what's going on and I don't know you. But like you said, I'm a very blunt and a matter of fact type of person, and you're going to get what you're going to get. And not to necessarily put anybody's character down, but that ain't good for business.
Not at all.
Yeah, your
And
your skills, you know.
exactly. No, and I think creators got to understand that, where it's like this thing is relational. Business, anything that you're doing, business, creativity, it's all relational. Now, if you're just creating this for the sake of creating, that's one thing. But if once you say, okay, I'm trying to monetize my creativity, it's all relational. And it's not just relational between you and your customer or client or your audience, but it's also relational with you and the contractors that you may hire that to work with. It's also relational with you and, you know what I'm saying, some other partnerships that you're looking to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I think a lot of times creatives can be introverted or reclusive. And I think that's kind of, some people, they lean into their creativity, and that creativity became that security blanket for them. But once
Mhm.
again, when you're trying to get into the business side of it, no, you have to be a little bit more extroverted than you probably desire. Because believe it or not, I'm really not. I'm an ambivert, but I'm probably more introverted than extroverted. I just extrovert well, and I'm very charismatic, right? But I prefer to be a recluse, right? But I know that me being reclusive is not benefiting and putting money in my pocket, right? And
Yeah.
I got mouths to feed, so I need to go out and network, create relationships, and in those relationships, making sure that they're good relationships, that I have a good name. Like that's one thing that I can definitely pat myself on the back, that I got a good name. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm sure I may be the villain in somebody's story, right? I'll say though that it was never intentional, right?
Right.
If I'm a villain in somebody's story, it was just me being a high D on the disc, right? So and I came across a abrasive or something unintentionally, but somebody took it a certain way and they never had a conversation with me. I tell people,
Yeah.
listen, I'm very open. We can have a conversation. We can have a dialogue. You can let me know how I offended you. I'd rather you let me know that I offended you than be offended by me and never let me know, because then that's not, to me, I don't think it's fair to me because I can't rectify it, right? And
Right.
sometimes, listen, you may not want it to be rectified. And I'm okay with that too, because obviously, you know what I'm saying, you didn't value the relationship enough to bring it to my attention. And if that's the case, then I'm good. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I'm also glad that you said that too, about having good character and having a good name, out here in these creative streets. Because sometimes you got to take a look in the mirror too and say, well, am I a good partner, or am I a good creative when other people talk about me, or can they vouch for me? So it's not always when you're doing business with somebody, because sometimes you have to also evaluate your brand as a creative too. And your brand is your money ticket. That is your meal ticket. So if you cannot uphold certain standards or expectations when it comes to branding yourself, I mean, do you really have a creative practice at the end of the day? Because I feel like that also strongly aligns with building your business. Building your brand is important. You have to build those relationships. You have to get to know people. You can't just expect people to throw money at you. You have to literally sit down and break bread with as much people or as many people as possible, in order for you to try to make something happen. But also, be of value. What can you bring to the table instead of just mooching off of everybody else? How can I add value to what you're doing also, right? Because a lot of times, I know I've come across some people here in Detroit where I've supported a lot of people. And for me, I'm like, I don't feel the need to ask for it in return because I'm not expecting it in return. I support because I genuinely care and I genuinely, I rock with people. But I do notice it. I do pay attention. So if I'm going hard for you and I don't see you going hard, we gotta have a conversation about that too. But yeah, so that relationship building, evaluating your brand as a creative, having structure in your business, not trying to do everything, and of course making sure that you're automating as much of your practices as possible will definitely carry you further as a creative, in any industry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your inspiration too. Let's get into that. So, music and media, it goes hand in hand. What are some of your musical influences or inspirations that kind of drove you into even considering music production?
Hmm. That's a good question. So I grew up. So yeah. So I grew up in a very eclectic household. So my dad is a trumpeter, but though he listened to jazz, right, he wasn't necessarily a jazz musician. He played funk, like he played like
Mm,
Earth, Wind and Fire type music, Tower Power, right? You know what I'm saying? Can function like that was his. So I grew up with Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire records being played. I grew up with him listening to Miles Davis, Donald Byrd, jazz musicians, and then fusion with Donald Byrd and Freddie Hubbard, right? You know what I'm saying? So that was my dad's musical taste. And then my
yes,
mom, right? Well, my mom, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in a church. So I'm listening to the Clark sisters, the Winans, Commission, you know what I'm saying? Fred Hammond, right? So that's what's getting played Sunday through Saturday for my mama. Then my daddy, he playing the other stuff. And then I grew up in the era when hip hop was booming and whatnot. And so I just gravitated towards hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So my musical influences like your Marley Marls, your DJ Premier, Pete Rock, of course Dilla being from the city.
yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was like. I was getting the three chord. I'm getting the gospel piece. I'm getting the jazz and the funk, and then I'm getting hip hop, right? And then just in that you're getting soul. So I gravitated to like on my own. I'm listening to like Donny Hathaway. I'm listening to my dad. They had
Mm.
style. I'm listening to the stylistics, the whispers. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So all that stuff growing up was just
Can you see my album or something? I'm like, are you looking at my albums? Because you literally just named my whole album collection, like the whole album collection.
yeah.
So okay, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
no, yeah,
yes,
yeah. Those were the influences. So then when I started making beats. Probably my senior year in high school. Then I was looking at I was trying to listen to see okay what DJ Premier doing, what Pete Rock doing. You know what I'm saying? So studying their styles, and then that's kind of how I got my style. As far as music production, but I always leaned towards like melodies. Like I love melodies. So though they was like theirs was drum driven, like boom bap drum driven. Mine was more
yeah.
melody. So I'm always look for the sample first. Okay, what I'm gonna sample and what I'm gonna chop first. And then as I develop relationships with musicians, I want live elements. So I would have, live bass or somebody come in and play some keys and things like that. So yeah, those are my influences coming up. Oh,
Wow.
and then artist wise, so I got to give a shout out to. I was a big Tribe Called Quest and De La fan, right? And I connected with them because it was like I'm not a thug, I'm not a gangster. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't that, and I felt like they were speaking to me. Now, don't get it twisted. When I was younger, I did listen to like Ice Cube was probably one of the people I listened to the most. Like Death Certificate is definitely in my top 5 albums. But the reason why though, it was a level of satire and it was a level of consciousness that I hadn't heard before, right? And I was like, yo, this is dope, right? Just even remember the album cover where it was like, the him at the morgue with the dead body with the toe tag that said Uncle Sam, right? So that was
Yeah.
there. It was something. You know what I'm saying? It was a level of intelligence there. That's why I love hip hop. That made you think and that had, what I'm saying, underlying things, and you had to kind of undig the metaphor, and that's why I love Daylight and stuff like that because it was like, oh, Pasta News, did y'all catch what he said? Y'all ain't catch that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so
Yeah.
so yeah, so
And
those are
you
my
know what?
influences.
That was a good era to actually grow up in when it came to hip hop in general, because I mean, when we talk about the five elements, knowledge is still a pivotal part of hip hop's culture. And I got into not so much a heated discussion about is hip hop's culture dying, or do we have some Detroit artists that gatekeep in the hip hop community, right? Because it's not everybody, it's not all Detroit artists. But I kept coming across this topic because I would hear it from some artists where they were like, we as like Detroit artists should be collaborating more with our people. We don't have to, we can still collaborate with people outside of here, but we need to start collaborating with each other because we build the city up more when we work together versus working against each other. And I know for me, and just watching, the evolution of hip hop, and then even just being, a dance educator and a choreographer, and even teaching Detroit JIT, which is, I mean, honestly, I feel like should be studied as a curriculum at any university. And because that's something that was pivotal here, right? In the city. Hip hop, I don't want to say that the culture is dying because the culture is always going to live, but that one aspect, the knowledge, we are losing the ability to be able to read through satire, to, you know, work on our writing skills, being creative writers, phonics, all of that. And I was so grateful when Mahogany told me that she taught, a creative writing class for music with Inside Out, because I was like, we need more of that, especially with today's youth. And I know when I was teaching middle school, and I was teaching reading, writing, and comprehension, and just them not knowing how to formulate sentences or even understanding how to write a paper using pencil and line paper, or how many lines you need to write in order to write a paragraph versus writing 5 lines. Um, Today's hip hop is not the same as yesterday's hip hop, and I know that there are artists here in the city that can revive, that aspect of really carrying the culture forward when it comes to knowledge, because knowledge is power, essentially, right? Um, with that being said, who are your top five? Your top five lyricists. If you can name your top five, besides Dylon, 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 and Dylon, who are your top five?
All right, so my personal top five, right? I always gotta tell people like, oh my god, but no, like, yeah, top, and there's reasons for, but my top five, and it's no order. I'm not gonna put them in order. I'm just gonna give you my top five. Ice Cube, Scarface,
Okay.
Pasta Noose from De La Soul,
Mm.
Nas, and then the fifth one. I'm a big Biggie fan. Just listening to yeah, I'm gonna go Biggie. So yeah, so Ice Cube, Scarface, Pasta Noose, Nas, and Biggie.
You did right. You did right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And of course, I have a sibling, so I'm the youngest out of all of my siblings. My sister,
Okay.
the reason why I can rap every Biggie song is because of her. We used to
Okay.
go to sleep listening to Biggie's Ready to Die album and Life After Death and Junior Mafia's album. I'm talking about, I'm supposed to be listening to meditation music when I go to bed, and you playing Biggie's Ready to Die album in order for me to go to sleep.
Right, right,
So
right.
that's why I'm
And
always
listen,
gonna be a Biggie
you
fan.
shouldn't have been listening to that. You shouldn't have been
No,
listening
not
to
at
it.
my age. So I
And
was like,
I
what?
recently. That's what I'm saying. You should have been listening to it. I shouldn't have been listening to it. As I go back and listen to it now, I'm like, oh, I can't listen to these lyrics. This, I mean, now mind you, the
Yeah,
talent is there, but it's like, nah, I can't listen to this.
yeah,
But
yeah.
as
Oh
far as just
yeah.
pure skill and talent and how the way he put together words and the way you can visualize what he's saying. One of my, like he said, your heartbeat sounds like Sasquatch feet, thundering, shaking the concrete. Like just that there is like, what? Who thinks of that? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, so this is what I'm saying. Intelligent rap, where it's like he painted that picture. You got first of all, you gotta know what a Sasquatch is. That person don't know what a Sasquatch is. But you gotta know what a Sasquatch feet. So you Bigfoot. So your heartbeat sound
Yeah.
like Bigfoot,
Yep.
stomping, thundering, shaking the concrete. You know what I'm saying? This stuff like that, man. Like, so big, no, yeah, no, like Biggie was dope. Scarface, dope storyteller. He can definitely That's what I'm saying. As I was listening to some of this music, I'm like, yo, these should be movies. Like, why hasn't anybody
Mm,
taken these songs, created them into a movie or a television series or something like that? Because
yes.
that's literally what they're doing. It's like, and especially for the ones that are painting pictures and telling stories. Like, no, I see that now. I want to see that. I was thinking about the Me and My B song that Big did. Like, that can literally be a movie.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
There are a lot of great albums that definitely practice the art of storytelling, which that is a lost art too. And I noticed with a lot of like social media content, you know, now everybody has to be a storyteller on social media, but there are just albums that you can play straight through. I mean, I know for me, obviously, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City, you can play the entire album straight through
yes.
and literally feel like you are riding in the car with him. It's
Yes.
cinematic, right? And
Yep.
to be at a level where you can record an album and feel like you are there, you know, it does take a level of knowledge, right? But it also takes a level of creativity that we need more of in the hip hop community, right? Because we do have those artists that are still creative like that. But I am
Yeah.
scared, you know, that we're going to lose that creativity at some point if we don't continue to build up the next generation and teach them why this is important. Like I remember I had a professor, I had a white professor in college, and it was for oral communications class, and he made us dissect one of Talib Kweli's songs. And he was a true hip hop head, and I
Mm.
cannot remember his name, but I appreciated him for taking the time out and for introducing Talib Kweli as an artist. One, two, you know, individuals, because I mean Wayne State, well at the time it was a good mix. It was a good mix. It was like half and half, right? But just having that introduction to like real hip hop music, especially from a Caucasian professor, right? But he knew what he was talking about. I could appreciate that. So I appreciate him for doing that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just need more people like that in the world, right? That can continue to push the trajectory of why hip hop really can, I mean, move a culture and protect a culture in a certain way
Yes.
while also preserving history and even just Detroit's
Yeah.
cultural art scene and thinking about how amazing we are here in the city and just some of the things that are going on. Like there are so many opportunities to be creative now. And I remember being a creative and how being creative was like not cool at one point. And now being a creative is just like mainstream. Everybody is a creative now. Everybody's creating something. Everybody has an event going on. Everybody is doing something that has to do with just being in an artist or in the artist realm. So I know for sure this is definitely a great time for creatives to one capitalize on what's going on here in the city, especially with, and I'll say in quotes, the revitalization of the city. Because I mean we're always a work in progress, right? Always a work in progress. But
Exactly. Exactly.
if you can impart any wisdom on any creative, what would it be?
Oh, any wisdom on any creative? Okay, so I'm speaking to the creative that wants to monetize their creativity, right? Um, the biggest thing that I can impart to you is learn the business of your creativity. Because if you don't, other people will monetize it and benefit from it more than you. And that's really why I do what I do, right? It's like I've seen creative after creative they're talented, but they not monetizing it. They're not benefiting from it. Somebody else is because they don't understand business. They don't understand the business of their specific creative gifting and skill set. So I'm telling you, that's the biggest thing. If you can learn the business side of it, you'll never be broke a day in your life because I understand business, so I know how to brand myself. I know how to market myself. I know how to do all these things to where, yeah, you got a skill set. You have a creative skill. Because listen, creativity ain't going nowhere. As much as we utilizing AI and all that type stuff, trust me, you still gonna need a human's touch. You still gonna need a human. And yes, whatever you do creatively, learn that business. So that's
Yeah.
I keep it short and sweet. I know I can be loquacious.
Listen, I want to thank you for sitting down with me and breaking bread. And again, just the wealth of knowledge you've offered to many creatives and cultural artists is definitely needed here, not just in the city, but worldwide. So you are saving the world one creative at a time. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on to today's episode. Where can we find you on social media?
All right. So you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can go to Minding My Creative Business Podcast. So that's Minding My Creative Business Podcast, or MMCB for short, right? They'll both take you there. So yeah, that's IG, Facebook, and YouTube. If you want to get more information on how to monetize your creativity, go to our YouTube page, subscribe, you know what I'm saying? So you'll know when we drop episodes and all that type stuff, and just tap in.
Absolutely. And for the creatives that need an extra push, as in, I need for Ron to really hook me up with some coaching. Where can we find you, and what website should we go to so we can register for the cohort?
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, so we're doing something called the Creative to CEO Challenge. So if you go to Creative CreativeATIVETO Challenge CHALLENGE. I'm not the best speller, so whatever. So creative to CEO challenge.com. That'll take you there and sign up for that. It's a 5-day challenge. At the end of that 5-day challenge, you're gonna have a 90-day plan to monetize with your signature offer, regardless of what your creative field is, right? So yeah, join that challenge, and then from that challenge, yeah, you're gonna be set up for success. So yeah, creative to CEO challenge.com.
Ron, it was a pleasure. Again, I thank you. Thank you for offering your expertise, especially in this field, because there are a lot of cultural artists and creatives that are not only lacking the awareness they need to know in order to structure their infrastructure and to do it correctly, but to also have the confidence that they can do it themselves until they're bringing in the income to, delegate to other people. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on to today's show of the Starving Artist podcast. This was an amazing interview. I know I can go on and on, but I had to cut it off myself. Of course, you can find us on Instagram at Starving Artist Development, or you can visit our website at www.starvingartistdevelopment.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is Starving Artist Development Pod. We need those subscribers. We want to keep those interviews rolling, because right now we are providing a wealth of resources and knowledge to cultural artists and creatives, one innovator and curator at a time. So again, I would like to thank everybody for joining us on today's show. We look forward to kicking it with you all soon. Peace.